Class 6, Chapter 6 of History. Okay. New question and the ideas. This is Anaga's school trip. This was the first time Anaga was going on a school trip. They boarded the train from the Pune in Maharashtra late night at night to go all the way to Varanasi, Andhra Pradesh. Her mother, who came to see her at the station, told the teacher to tell the children about the Buddha and take them to see Sanatha as well. The story of the Buddha Siddha, also known as the Gautama, the founder of the Buddhism, was born into 2500 years ago. This was the time of the rapid change in the lives of the people. As you saw in chapter 5, some king as a Mahaj and Palpa growing more powerful. New cities were developing and life was changing in the village as well. Many thinkers were trying to understand these changes in society. He also wanted to try and find out the true meaning of the life. Buddha belonged to a small gun known as the Sakya gun and was a Kshatriya. When he was a young man, he left the comfort of his home in search of knowledge. He wandered for several years. Meeting and holding discussion with other thinkers, he finally decided to find his own path to realization. Meditated for days on end under the people tree at the Bodh Gaya in Bihar, where he attained enlightenment. After that, he was known as the Buddha or the Wise One. He then went to Sanatha University, where he taught for the first time. He spent the rest of his life traveling on the foot, going from place to place, teaching people till he passed away at Kushinara. The Buddha taught that life is full of suffering and unhappiness. This is caused because we have cravings and the desires, and sometimes even if we get what we want, or we are not satisfied and want even more. The Buddha described this as the thirst or the tanha. He taught that his constant craving would be removed by following the moderation in everything. He also taught people to be kind and to respect the lives of others, including animals. He believed that the result of our actions, called karma, whether good or the bad, affect us both in this life and the next. The Buddha taught in the language of the ordinary people, that is Prakrit, so that everybody could understand this language. He also encouraged the people to think for themselves. Okay, एक मिनट. This is a stupa Sana. The building known as stupa was built to mark the place where the Buddha first taught his messages. Okay, stupa. Prakrit. He also encouraged the people to think for themselves rather than to simply accept what he said. Let us see how did this. The story of Kesha Gautami. Here is a famous story about the Buddha. One day was a woman named Kesha Gautami whose son had died. She was so sad that she roamed around the street of the city carrying the child Buddha, asking for help to bring him back to her. A kind man took her to the Buddha. Buddha said, "Bring me a handful of mustard seed and I will bring your child back to life." Kesha Gautami was overjoyed, started off at once, but the Buddha gently stopped and said, "These seeds must come from the house of a family where nobody has died." Kesha Gautami went from door to door, but whenever she went, she found that somewhere or the other, the father, mother, sister, brother, husband, wife, uncle, etc. had died. Time to a sixth school of Indian philosophy. Over centuries, India's intellectual exploration has come to be represented by 6 systems of philosophy. These are known as Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Samakya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Vedanta और उत्तर मीमांसा. तो पूर्व मीमांसा, उत्तर मीमांसा, मीमांसा, Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Samakya, Yoga. These 6 systems of philosophy are said to have been founded by the sages Konada, Gautama, Kapila, Patanjali, Jamni, Vyasa respectively. अच्छा फिर से Vaisheshika by Konada, Nyaya by Gautama, Samakya Kapila, Yoga Patanjali, Purva Mimamsa Jaimini, Vedanta Uttar Mimamsa Vyasa. These philosophicals still guide scholarly discourse in the country. The German-born British Indologist, जिसका नाम था Friedrich Max Müller, had observed that the 6 systems of philosophy were developed over many generations with contribution made by individual thinkers. However, today we find an underlying harmony in their understanding the truth, even though they seem distinct from each other. Upanishads around this time, where each other thinkers also tried to find answers to philosophical questions. Some of them wanted to know about the life after death, others wanted to know why sacrifices should be performed. Many of these thinkers felt that there was something permanent in the universe that would last even after death. They described this as the Atma or the individual soul and the Brahma or the universal soul. They believed that ultimately both the Atma and the Brahman were one. Many of the ideas were recorded in the Upanishad. They were part of the later Vedic text. Upanishad literally means approaching and sitting. Approaching Upanishad. Approaching and sitting. Here's a dialogue based on the story from one of the most famous Upanishad, जिसका नाम था चांडोक्य Upanishad. Shaunaka and Api Pratarin were 2 sages who worshipped the universal soul. Once as they sat down to eat, a beggar came and asked for some food. "We cannot spare anything for you," Shaunaka said. "Learned sirs, whom do you worship?" the beggar asked. "The universal soul," Api Pratarin replied. "Ah, it means that you know that the universal soul fills the entire world." "Yes, as we know that," the sages nodded. "If the universal soul fills the whole world, it fills me too. Who am I but a part of the world?" The beggar said. "You speak the truth, O young Brahman." "Then who suggests by not giving me food, you are actually denying food to the universal soul?" The sage replied the truth of what the beggar said and shared their food with him. And the text contained the conversation between the teacher and the student. Often ideas were perceived through simple dialogue. Most Upanishad thinkers were men, especially Brahmins and the Rajas. Occasionally there is mention of the women thinkers such as Gargi, Apala, Kosha and Maitreya. Women thinkers का नाम बताओ. Gargi, Apala, Maitreya, Ghosha. Gargi, Apala, Ghosha, Maitreya. Gargi, Apala, Ghosha, Maitreya, who are famous for their learning and particularly anyway poor people really took part in this discussion. One famous exception was the Satya Kama Jabala, who was named after his mother, the slave woman Jabali. एक स्लेव वुमन थी जबाली, उन्हीं का एक बेटा था जिनका नाम था सत्यकमा जबाला. तो इवन तो बिलोंगिंग फ्रॉम पुअर पीपल he took part in discussion. Satyakama Jabala, he had a deep desire to learn about the reality, was accepted as a student by the Brahmin teacher named Gautama, and became one of the best known thinkers of the time. Many of the ideas of the Upanishad were later developed by the famous thinker Shankaracharya. Panini the grammar. This was also the time when other scholars were at work. One of the most famous work was Panini, who prepared a grammar for Sanskrit. He arranged the vowels in the consonant in a specific order and then used these to create a formula like those found in the algebra. He used these to write down the rules of the language in a short formula, around 3,000 of them. Jainism, the 24th thinker of the Jainas, Vardhaman Mahavir, also spread his message around this time, 25 years ago. He was a Kshatriya prince of the Lichavya group that was a part of the Vajrashanga, about which you read in chapter 5. At the age of 30, he left home and went to live in a forest for 12 years. He led a hard and lonely life, at the end of which he attained enlightenment and 12 years at the age of 42. And not a simple doctrine. Men and women who wish to know the truth must have their homes. They must follow very strictly the rules of the ncert, which means not hurting or killing living being. All living beings said Mahavira long to live to all the things life is dear. Ordinary people could understand the teaching of Mahavira and his follower because they used Prakrit. There were several forms of Prakrit used in different parts of the country and named after the region in which they were used. For example, Prakrit spoken Magad in Magad was known as Magadhi. Followers of Mahavira who were known as Janas led to a very simple life, begging for food. They had to be absolutely honest and were especially asked not to steal. Also, they had to observe celibacy and men had to give up everything, including their clothes. It was very difficult for most men and women to follow these strict rules. Nevertheless, thousands left their home to learn and teach this new way of life. Many more in behind and supported those who became monks and the nuns, providing them food. Jainism was supported mainly the Jain. The word Jaina comes from the term Jina, meaning a conqueror. Okay, Jainism was supported mainly by traders, farmers who had to kill insects to protect their crop. Found it more difficult to follow this rule. Over hundreds of years, Jainism spread to different parts of the India, to Gujarat, to Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. The teaching of the Mahavira and his followers were transmitted orally for several centuries. They were written down in the form of which they were presently available at a place called Vallabhi in Gujarat for hundreds of years ago. Sangha, both Mahavira and the Buddha felt that only those who left their home could gain true knowledge. They arranged for them to stay together in the Sangha, an association for those who left their home. These rules made for the Buddhist Sangha were written down in a book called Vinay Pitaka. From this we know that there were separate branches for men and the women. All men could join in the Sangha. However, children had to take the permission of their parents and slaves that of their master. Those who worked for the king had to take his permission and debtors that of a creditor. Women had to take their husband's permission. Men and women who joined the Sangha led simple life. They meditated for most of the time and went to the cities and the villages to beg for food during the fixed hours. That is why they were known as bhikkhus, the practical word for the renouncer, and the bhikkhunis. They taught others and helped one another. They also held a meeting to settle any quarrels that took place within the Sanghas. Those who joined the Sanghas include the Brahman, Kshatriya, merchant, labourer, Baba, courtier, and the slave. Many of them wrote down the teachings of the Buddha. Some of them also composed the beautiful poems describing their life in the Sangha. Okay, we are to begin with. The Buddha, Jain and the Buddhist monk went from place to place throughout the year, teaching the people. The only time they stayed in one place was during the rainy season, when it was very difficult to travel. This is a cave hollowed out in hills. This is a cave in Kalli, present-day Maharashtra. Bhikkhus and the bhikkhus lived and meditated here. Travel. Then their supporters built temporary shelters for them in the gardens, or they lived in a natural caves in hill areas. As the time went on, many supporters of the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis and they themselves felt the need for more permanent shelters, so monasteries were built. These were known as viharas. The earliest viharas were made of the wood and then of the brick. Some were even in caves and that were dug out in hills, especially in Western India. A Buddhist text tells us, just as the waters of the river lose their names and the separateness when they flow into the mighty ocean, so are the varna and the rank and family forgotten when the followers of Buddhism join the order of the monk. Very often the land on which the viharas were built was donated by the rich merchant or landowner or the king. The local people came with the gifts of the food, clothing, and the medicine for the bhikkhus and the bhikkhus. They taught the people. Over centuries, Buddhism spread to many parts of the subcontinent and beyond. A new form of Buddhism known as Mahamaya were now developed. They had two distinct features. Earlier, the Buddha presence was shown in sculptures by using the certain sign. For instance, the attainment of the enlightenment was shown by the sculptures of the people. Now, statues of Buddhas were made. Many of these were made in the Mathura, while others were made in the Dakshina. The second stage was a belief in Bodhisattvas. The second change was belief in Bodhisattvas. These were worshipped to be person who had ashram. Stages of life of the ashram. Ashram is the stage of the life. 4 ashrams were acknowledged: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Samyas. Samanyasa. Brahman, Kshatriyas, and the Vaishya was better to lead a simple life, study the Veda during the early years of their life, brahmacharya, then they had to marry and live as householder, grihast. They had to live in the forest and meditate, vanaprastha, then they had to give up everything and become sannyasi. This system of ashram allowed a person to spend some parts of their life in meditation. Okay, okay. यहाँ पे हम क्या पढ़ रहे थे? These were supposed to the person who had attain enlightenment. Once they attained enlightenment, they could live in complete isolation and meditate in peace. However, instead of doing that, they remain in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of the Bodhisattvas became very popular and spread throughout the Central Asia, China, and later to Korea and Japan. Buddhism spread to the western and the southern India as well, and what dozens of the caves were allowed out of hills for bhikkhus to live in. Buddhism also spread southeastward. Southeastward to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, and other parts of the Southeast Asia, including the Indonesian Thalda form of Buddhism known as Theravada. Older form of Buddhism known as Theravada Buddhism was more popular in these areas. Here's the pilgrims are men and the women who undertake the journeys to holy places in order to offer worship. The best known of these are the Chinese Buddhist pilgrim Fahin, who came to the Sakharan about 1600 years ago, Xuanzang about 1400 years ago, Aikwing, Xuanzang. सबसे पहले फाइन आए थे. फाइन चंद्रगुप्त के टाइम पे आए थे. ह्वेनसांग हर्षवर्धन के टाइम पे आए थे. Aikwen came to about 50 years after ह्वेनसांग. They came to visit places where the life of the Buddha as well as famous monasteries. Three of these pilgrims left on account of his journey. They wrote rather dangers they encountered on the travel, which often took years. Of the countries and the monasteries they visited, and the books were carried back with them. Nalanda, unique center of the learning, Xuanzang and the pilgrims spent time studying in Nalanda Vihar, the most famous Buddhist monastery of the period. This is how it describes the teachers are men of the highest ability and talent. They follow the teachings of the Buddha in all sincerity. The rules of the monastery are very strict and everyone has to follow them. Discussions are held throughout the day and old and the young mutually help one another and learned when from different cities came here to settle their doubt. The gatekeeper asked new entrants difficult questions. They are allowed to enter only after they have been able to answer the 7 or 8 out of every 10 not able to answer. Out of every 10 are not able to answer. Okay, completed. Thank you.